Right, the Great Commission, Jesus says, make disciples of all nations. All nations. And years ago we used to think, well, if we were going to do that, you had to be a missionary to go overseas to another nation. But I think our modern culture, the nations have come to us. Good Shepherd Lutheran School, last time I went over there, I'm looking at the school parents were leaving, and I'm looking at the drivers coming out. And I'm going, they're not all white Anglo-Saxon. In fact, there's a lot of people from Asia, from India, other countries around the world driving out. And then in school chapel, like heaps of the kids that are doing stuff, they're from another culture. So they're around us. And so Selena went to a cross-cultural mission conference in Melbourne this year, and I thought, it'd be great to get her to share a bit of stuff. So I've got some questions. Selena, what are some barriers that stop us from connecting with people from other nations, and why do we tend to find that difficult?
Yeah, so I think a large part of it can be fear that we don't know what we're going to come across in a conversation with someone from a different culture. Another one is just time, that we don't have a lot of time to spend talking with people that we bump into necessarily, making that time. Sometimes we don't even come across people from other cultures, depending on our circles. We might just hang around with our friends a lot and co-workers and not really see the other people that might be around us.
So they're sort of invisible, like extras in a play that, yeah.
Yeah, until you really look at them with God's eyes, you might not notice. And also, if you do try a conversation, sometimes the language barrier or even the accent can be difficult. So yeah, so I know there's lots of barriers. Yeah.
Could you share a couple of stories? I mean, this is part of your heart, is to connect with people from other cultures. Could you just share perhaps a couple of stories and maybe highlight a couple of things you might have found helpful in your journey?
So I do love talking to people from other cultures. And lots of stories I could share, but just a couple. Luke and Karina Yi, who are in our congregation. Karina's mum, Genhua, came out from China with very little English, didn't know many words at all. We used to go around to their place for Bible studies sometimes, and Genhua would take me out the back, and we'd go for a walk around the garden and have a look at all the plants and the veggies and things that she was growing, some more creative stuff maybe than I'd seen before. And somehow with gestures and signing and pointing and stuff, we'd have a conversation, a great old conversation about our common interest of gardening and what was going on. So that's just one example of getting by with very little common language. And another story is a lady that I met when I was just coming back from a jog, just down literally the end of my street. And I was just walking back, and she was walking past me the other direction, and she had her hair all tied up in a big turban. She was clearly from a Indian cultural background, and so we stopped and said hi, and I asked her about her turban. I said, "Oh, what's all this about?" And she said she was Sikh religion, and I said, "Oh, I like talking about religions. I'm a Christian, and I don't know much about Sikh religion." And she said, "Oh, well, how about I tell you about my religion and you can tell me about yours?" And, you know, what an opportunity. So we ended up spending quite a bit of time over the next year or so just sort of visiting at each other's houses and talking about, our faiths and our family. And it turns out they were actually leaders in the Sikh community, very prominent leaders, and they had a copy of their holy book in their house, in their, what should have been the master bedroom at the front of the house. They'd opened it up and converted it into a little mini temple there. So I got to, just see all that, and she even invited me to one of their gatherings there and had some food and music and things. So yeah, it's pretty amazing what God can open up.
So they weren't big, massive things.
No.
So could you just perhaps give us a few pointers at how we as individuals and maybe as a congregation might be able to connect and and perhaps build relationships with people from other nations or cultures?
So, I mean, a large part of it, like I said, is kind of going into these moments with an open heart. So preparing ourselves beforehand, just day to day, is really important. Nurturing our own souls in prayer and the Word, and having God's heart for other people. And it might be people from other cultures or from our own culture, but really going into our days with that and praying for the Spirit to the Spirit for opportunities. And yeah, you'll be amazed at what He brings in your path when you're looking. It's just interesting that just consider that people are often more open to spiritual matters when they're going through difficult times or transition times. So people who have moved to Australia from other cultures are surprisingly open to talking about spiritual matters. They're looking for relationships, they're looking for connection, for someone to give them a hand with things, and they're not quite as jaded as a lot of Aussies are with spiritual matters, and they're quite interested to find out our thoughts and share their own. So there really can be some quite open conversations. It helps if you're feeling this feeling of fear and uncertainty when you're trying to interact with someone from another culture, just to remember our common humanity. See them as a father or mother, or as a husband or wife, or just this shared experience that we all have. We are all actually very, very similar. And so sort of going in with those assumptions that, you know, we're going to have lots in common, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And then making space and time. So this is just a challenge for all of us to not fill our days and our weeks up completely, and actually allow the Spirit an opportunity to that we can pause when these moments come up, and that we can invest in these relationships. Also just looking for opportunities wherever you already are. So like Rolly said, we don't even have to go overseas, but we don't even have to go and do specific ministries to meet people. Keep an eye out in when you go to the shops, in your workplace, here at church, when you go to playgrounds or on walking trails, sports events, just at the library. Everywhere that you're already going, keep your eyes open with God's eyes to see the people that are around you.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing with us today. And
That's right.
You got anything more you want to...
I got a few other tips.
Yeah?
Yeah. So just on a real practical note, learning hello and goodbye in other languages is really powerful. So if you have made a friend in another culture, just finding out, either ask them or do a little quick research, say hi and bye in their language next time you see them. And it really just brings joy to their face. Remember people's names, really important. And often in another culture, you may not know quite how they would spell that or say it. Get it in your own letters, in your own head, write it down how you would say it as quick as possible, and practice it, and come in next time and have your best go at their name. And it's, again, really powerful. Google Translate is available on phones and or equivalent, just a translating app. They are so useful. You have access to just about any language that you might come across. You can type into it, you can speak into it, they can speak into it. As long as you're using very, very simple phrases, it can really open up your conversation and really explain the concepts that you might be trying to talk about, if you keep it really simple. And if you're having trouble understanding their accent or what they might be talking about, try and latch onto a word and just repeat that word back, and just try and build on that. Ask lots of questions. Keep asking questions if in doubt. Have an educated guess at what they might be saying. And in your heart, always be non-judgmental. So we don't know people's backgrounds. They are going to have different ideas. They're going to have different spiritual ideas. We don't have to freak out. We don't have to quickly convert them and quickly say what we believe. Just listen. Just be non-judgmental and listen. Let them tell their stories. Let them tell their points of view. And when we do that, we earn the right later on to share our point of view when it's appropriate.
Yeah, well, the danger is if you react, then you alienate and they won't want to talk with you again.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And people appreciate being heard. Always people need to be heard. And when we know their situation, we can bring God's love into that situation. We actually know what we need to share. Remember what you talked about so that you can ask them next time. That's just good manners in any relationship. And be brave. Really do give things a try. And remember that people who have moved here are probably more nervous than you in that situation. You're the one in your comfort zone, and they're the one that's trying to learn and reach out. So, yeah, we can be a real blessing.
Thank you. Excellent. Good work.
No worries.
We'll hear from you in the next couple of weeks as well. Thank you.